Yes. Mm.
Yeah, are you sharing, Rosalind?
Yes, I am. Is it still not visible?
It's visible now.
Correct. My screen is changing as well, correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So to start with, as the word guesstimate says, right? Guess plus estimate, correct? So that is what it means. It's like a combination of guesswork and estimation, right? People have a very bad notion that guesstimate is all about numbers. It is actually not, right? Guesstimates people ask during interviews to see what is exactly your thought process, what is your approach. They do not want, I mean, obviously, numbers is important, but is it like the most important part? No, right? So it is essentially that how is your approach, what's your thinking, how broadly can you think of. Uh, so there will always be a brownie point if you have some out of the box thinking, right? Um, so that is how it happens. It's ideally for a 15 to 20 minutes that happens in an interview, right? So the how essentially should we approach a guesstimate? First, we should, let's say there is a problem statement that's been given by the interviewer. The next thing that we should do is reiterate the problem statement just to make sure that we like we and interviewer are exactly aligned on what's asked, right? And the second most important thing is scoping the problem. And this is like the most important thing in the entire solution flow, right? Scoping the problem essentially means if they, let's say, they are asking, estimate the number of diyas being sold in Diwali in Bangalore, let's say, right? So, what are the different types of questions that you're going to ask? Is it just for household purpose? Is it for, let's say, offices? What is the ask? What is the limitation? What are the constraints? Is it like on which kind of a place are we just limiting to one particular place? So these kind of questions should come up, right? Then is so this is one, right? You get the hints from the interviewer, but again, given this situation, coping the problem, you have to make sure that you ask a set of, like, let's say 5 6 questions which are relevant, and make sure that you do not ask something that's already there in the problem statement. So since it's a habit of scoping the problem, people usually uh, ask something that's already mentioned in the problem statement. So your presence of mind is very important here, right? Next, coming on to deciding the approach. So you can just take 2 3 like 1 minute post scoping the problem and think on what would be your approach, right? Let's say you want to go on a top down approach or a bottom up approach, and how you are going to like go ahead with the problem, that is something you can narrate to the interviewer and just ask other interviewers, do you think I'm going in the right line, should I go ahead? Then only start with the numbers, right? This is a very important thing that people usually forget. And obviously you'll have a pen and a paper along with you, so you can do the tree diagram, the value tree diagram, and just tell the interviewer, right? And then comes the last part, which is calculation, tabulation, and perform the sanity checks, right? I mean, basic mistakes should not happen, correct? Like, let's say, what are the number of airplanes taking off from an airport, right? There is always a ballpark number that you will have an idea about. You cannot say it like it would be 1 lakh in a day, right? That's something very, like, too weird. So you should have that basic knowledge. Common sense should not be uncommon here, right? Am I very clear, guys? Should I move ahead? I assume it to be a yes.
Yes, they are giving thumbs up and in the chat and reacting
Okay,
very mostly.
sure. So, okay. So there's like a guesstimate cheat code that's there, right? There are certain numbers that you should be aware of. Let's say, what's the population of India? We usually consider it around 1.4 billion, or it's like 1400 million, right? Then what's the split between an urban and rural? It's usually 60-40 right now at present, or else it's 75-35. But for easier calculations, people either consider it to be 70-30 or it's 60-40, right? Um, so 40 is urban and 60 is rural, correct? Similarly, if let's say on an income group, right? When you are dividing the population basis the income group, now right now you know that the middle income population is increasing. So you can just take the higher income to be 20%, middle income to be 50%, and then the rest 30% is the lower income, right? So these are the insights that you bring in, right? While you are mentioning to the interviewer that since the middle income population is growing right now, I would consider it to be around 50%. So that's how you bring your insights in an interview, right? Similarly, we have numbers in that's there in the last page. Let's park it for now. And the male female split is usually considered to be 50-50, correct? Similarly, when I speak of age, right? If we talk about an Indian population, you must be aware that the young age population is growing again. So which is around like let's say 15 to 35. That would be around like 40 to 50% of the entire population. So these are some things that you should be aware of, right? And like in certain cases, right, when let's say there's an guesstimate where they talk about what's the number of refrigerators sold, right? So for TVs, refrigerators, what are the very important factors is something called the replacement rate, or let's say the life cycle, or the life cycle of the product, right? We usually get our let's say mobile phones. We usually get it replaced in 2 to 3 years. So that is like the useful life of that mobile phone. So this is something that you should have in mind while you're solving a guesstimate, right? Um, then going on to like see what are the different frameworks that are available, right? So there is one called demand versus supply side, right? So what is essentially the demand side? This is where we're approaching a problem more from a consumer end, right? And like take this for granted that in general, when a problem comes, any guesstimate that comes, this is the first thing that comes to your mind, right? Population, let's take a population, then we divide it across income or across urban, rural, and then do the calculation. So this is a basic thing that comes up, and that is how the demand side thing comes up, right? And when we talk about supply side, this is essentially more where a constraint, capacity constraint is there, or we know that, like let's say, I will come to that. We'll come to some examples, but I'm just saying wherever there is a constraint or a bottleneck, that is where the supply side approach comes into picture, right? Guys, am I clear?
Yeah, we have one doubt.
Yeah. Please, I mean, you can unmute and speak up and
Yeah,
just
Gaurav,
tell
go
your
ahead.
name.
Yes, I have doubt in the previous slide.
Yes.
Can you please, yes. So can you please explain me this reducing factors and relevance of this, please?
Which is the TAM and the SAM? Is that what you're speaking about?
Yes, yes, yes. And how we use anecdotal evidences.
Okay. So I'll just say how this thing is used, right? TAM is essentially, let's say you are developing a medicine, okay, and you want to know what is your market. So TAM is essentially everyone who can use it, everyone who you think can use that product is your TAM, which is the total addressable market, right?
मतलब target audience, you mean to say, kind
Correct,
of.
target audience. Whoever is your target audience would be your total addressable market, right? Just a minute. Just guys, give me a minute. Yeah. Then coming on to SAM, which is a serviceable available market, right? So let's say, like for example, let's take the example which is given, right? People needing knee replacement. So the total addressable market can be everyone, let's say, usually the old age folks, right? They are the people aging like post 55 years would be the ones who would be requiring a knee replacement surgery, majorly, right? That would be a total addressable market. But when we are talking about serviceable available market, it's more regarding, is this like it's a subset of the TAM who would actually be serviceable to you. Like let's say knee replacement surgery, everyone like beyond 55 years, let's take it as TAM. And when we talk about SAM, it would be majorly people who would be able to avail the opportunity, right? Like if you talk about urban and rural, knee replacement surgery is not very cheap, right? And not the entire Indian population would be able to avail that, right? So the part of the population who would be actually able to avail the market is called the SAM.
So the TAM would be the person who have knee issues, and the SAM is the person who can afford knee replacement surgery for me and who have income bracket.
Correct, right? Understood. Yes, that's the point. And when
So
you're speaking about anecdotal evidence, this is essentially like a percentage that you take from your personal experience. Like this knee replacement is something that maybe you would not quite relate to, but let's say diabetes, for example, or for a medicine, per se, that example, where you can tell that as per my experience, I feel that like 30% of the population are suffering from this. So that is how we can consider a SAM. So that is what the anecdotal evidence essentially means. I'm like, did you get it?
yes, yes, yes. So these are the assumptions which we need to make before doing anything.
Correct, but these are again depends upon the questions. These are different ways. It depends in which question, which part do you want to uh, apply, right? We'll come to the questions, and I think that would make it more clearer, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. Uh, so I talked about demand and supply side. So this is one kind of approach, and the other is the top-down and the bottom-up approach, right? As the word itself says, top-down, as in we start from a bigger thing and then we segment it. This is essentially starting from the population. Then let's take we segregate it basis income, basis ages. Then again, there would be sub-segments, right? Let's say there can be a sub-segment with basis of what is the percentage of internet penetration, right? That can also be a sub-segment, users, non-users of any XYZ thing. So this is a top-down approach. But when we come to bottom-up approach, it's majorly going from the bottom till the top, right? So let's take identify the smallest replicable block, and then we take okay, these are the constants which are available. Uh, let me just give you an example, right? It could be something like huh. So let's take there is Delhi, and you have to calculate what could be the number of some ladies' corner in Delhi, right? Then you consider that uh, like this is the area, and there would be 10 wards. So you essentially culminate the simpler things and then go up, right? Like let's say revenue per store would be this much, then there would be X number of stores. You calculate the total revenue, and that is how you come to the total revenue. So that is essentially the bottom up approach, right? Is it clear? All the four approaches: demand, supply, top down, and bottom up. Before we go ahead with example.
Rosalind, there's one doubt. Ishan has one doubt. Could you please clarify it? Ishan, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the doubt I had was you mentioned the bottlenecks. If in supply side, you said if there are some bottlenecks, can you like expand a little bit more? Maybe an example.
We'll go ahead with examples. You'll get to know what exactly I'm
Okay. Okay.
referring to. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, one more doubt. There's
Yes.
one more doubt from Dakshita. Dakshita, please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like you mentioned that there are two approaches. Either we could go by demand side or by supply side.
Yeah.
And then you said that it is better to start from the demand side, right?
No, I
So,
just said that that's a natural thing that comes to everyone's mind because we get
oh,
so
okay, okay.
acquainted with it. That's the first thing
Yeah.
that crosses our mind. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was referring to.
Okay. So, like, there's no better way, or like it depends on the question.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Shall I move ahead?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So these are generic things. Like do not. So I'll not focus on what's the do's. I'll focus on what you should not do. Right. That's more important. As I mentioned, do not ask too many clarifying questions. Right. 4 or 5 is a good enough number. Right. Questions about approach or methodology. I mentioned that you tell your approach and then get alignment with the interviewer that yes, it's good to go ahead with. But do not ask, what do you, like indirectly do not ask the interviewer to tell their approach, right? So that is something which is a very negative thing, right? And when you are writing it, so you will usually use a pen and a paper and make a value tree kind of a thing, but make sure that it's very clear so that at the end while you are calculating or adding some things you do not get confused, correct? So I think we'll go ahead with examples that will clear a lot of doubts. Okay, right. So let's talk about petrol pumps in Delhi, right? um, so herein how we can go ahead with it, right? Now petrol pumps in Delhi is a very large area, right? We will have an approximate area of, let's say, 1200 square kilometers, right? The farthest distance, like how can you come with this number? You can just assume it to be a rhombus kind of a thing, right? And just see ki it's like 50 kilometers starting from X place to Y place. I do not have a lot of idea of Delhi, but if I speak of Bangalore, right, I can just take what's the distance from, let's say, the airport till Electronic City, right? I can just take that to be 60 or 70 kilometers. So that's how I get an idea of how much that can be, and you can just take the area of a rhombus by mentioning the area. So you should have some insight on how are you coming up with this 50 kilometers. And usually when they're giving a place, it would be majorly from the place that you belong to, right? Because you give an intro about yourself, and that's how they tweak, the interviewer tweaks the question, correct? So then we consider uh, uh, like this is essentially bottom up approach, right? First you see what are the different areas in Delhi, which is residential, commercial, forest, road, right? Then you can ask the interviewer that so first coming to like scoping, right? You can just ask if it's Delhi or it's Greater Delhi, right? To limit your scope, correct? Then you just want to know again this the second question, right? Whether it is operational and non-operational pumps is a very important one, right? They asked you petrol pumps. They did not mention it to be in the only the operational petrol pumps, right? So this is how you can come up. Okay, this is operational pumps. Let's take, okay. Then you split the area of residential, commercial, and forest covers and roads, right? Now let's assume petrol pumps would essentially be there on the main roads, right? Main roads, highways. Then you take 6 lane, 8 lane. So this is how you segregate. Then this is just one approach of finding how the petrol pumps are there in Delhi, right? Like let's say you assume the main roads to be 50% here and highways to be 15%, and then you assume the width of the main road to be around 25 meters and highway to be 35 meters because you mentioned it's a 6 lane and 8 lane because it's Delhi, right? And then you can assume a petrol pump density at main roads, which is 1 per 5 kilometer. But again, this is something that you should have very strong backing of, right? When you're saying that the petrol pump density, like you can just think, right? When you are traveling in Delhi or in any metro city for that case, in how much distance do you find a petrol pump, right? That's how it is given, right? In main roads, it would be like 1 in 5 kilometers, and in highway it would be around 10 kilometers. And then you multiply and find like what would be the number of petrol pumps in Delhi. uh, Guys, any doubts here, or do you think what other approaches do you think could have been taken over here? Anyone?
Yeah, well, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi. So I wanted to ask in this question, if we go about from the demand side that there are so matlab, XYZ number of cars or vehicles in Delhi, and then each car or each vehicle approximately has so and so liters of petrol, and then like if they are running for so and so distance, assuming approximately. So can this be an approach, or like it's too difficult and
No,
this
it
the
is
one that
not. It is not. So usually when this petrol pump question comes, right? Ideally, when the petrol pumps are created, we usually take it that the demand should be equal to the supply. This is like a fair assumption that we take, right? If X is the demand, we assume that X demand is being fulfilled in this case, in the approach that you are saying, right? But in, okay, so let's go ahead with your approach, right? Which is a demand side approach, correct? Let's say the entire population of Delhi is some 20 crores, okay? Then what? 2 crores, right? Then tell me, how would you go ahead with it? Like
like
what would be the uh, basis which you will exactly segregate it?
like you mentioned in I guess slide one or two that first I'll segregate the population in urban and rural. Then I'll say that if there's like
Exactly my
40,
point where people get stuck. So this is the first thing that always crosses everyone's mind, that we'll segregate into urban rural. But
yeah,
that's not. See, Delhi is a metro city. How much percentage would essentially be rural? A very very minor percentage, right?
yeah,
Matlab, so that is, this is exactly where your consent should come. Ki every time you should not use the major like segregators that are given to you. So what you can do when you go ahead with the demand side approaches, let's take the population to be 2 crore, then we divide the population as in there would be some private vehicles, there would be some commercial vehicles, and there would be some people who are non-users, right?
right.
Correct. Now, for the private vehicles, how would you go about it? Let's say about 2 crore population, then you divide by an average family size, which is usually taken to be 4, right? Then you consider the number of families. In families, then you consider, let's say, here you can consider an income bracket, a higher income
Yeah.
and a middle income. So, in a higher income, the number of vehicles would ideally be 3 or 4 because it's Delhi, right? And for a lower
Yeah.
income or for a middle income, it would be around 1 or 2. And for lower income, they would not be having a car or something, right? But they can have a two-wheeler. So that's how you segregate. Then you segregate for a commercial. So you can ask, like the interviewer, do you want me to do it for private vehicles only, for commercial? Like, do you want me to go through this approach? But it would be fairly longer approach. But yes, you can definitely go ahead to do this, right?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But you should just remember what are the different brackets that you're taking. It should not always be urban rural, because that's the first thing that crosses all of our mind, right? There are
Yeah.
multiple approaches to, but you should know when you're approaching a question, you should have very strong backing of what you're telling, right? So for example, in this, right, we can just then do what would be the average distance covered by a private vehicle in a day? What would be the average distance covered by a commercial vehicle in a day? Then we can like see what's the mileage, average mileage, and that's how we come to a thing that okay, this much amount of petrol would be required. This is the area. So for one petrol pump, what is the capacity of petrol that it can have, correct? And basis that, then you mention ki okay, these are the number of vehicles available. So this is like a supply equal to demand side, right? Let's say we come to, let's say there are some 2000 vehicles. I'm just taking any random number, right? There are 2000
Okay.
vehicles, correct? And Delhi is a bigger city, right? 2000 vehicles. Then you consider in one particular petrol pump, right? In a day, how many vehicles would it be able, like would the petrol pump be able to like the capacity, how much capacity does it have to at least fill the petrol in the vehicles, right? So for that, okay, great, let's go ahead with this question, right? Tell me, guys, tell me an approach where if there is a petrol pump, how do we decide uh, that what would be the, let's say, revenue of the petrol pump in a day? One petrol pump. Let's take one petrol pump in a day, and what would be the revenue of the petrol pump for the day? Can any one of you like just think
So,
for one,
so
2 minutes and tell?
we can start it by dividing it into uh, commercial vehicles and normal vehicles, which are used by everyone, and then we can divide the normal vehicles into uh, two wheelers and four wheelers, and we can do the same for commercial vehicles.
We can
Ah,
also add a peak hours as well.
yes, yes. So what, like I'm sorry, I'm not aware of your names, guys. But when you're like the first person who spoke, right? He spoke about that we can go with the commercial level. That's more of a demand side approach, right? And when the second person spoke, she said that it's more about the supply side thing, right? When we are saying that we can divide the entire day into 3 hours. Let's say peak hours, middle peak hours, non-peak hours, right? And so how like when do vehicles are very high on road? What is the time duration?
Really sorry. Just to you can just switch to the meetings page, right? And you can stop sharing and interact with the guys. There are a lot of people raising hands and they want to answer your questions.
Okay, okay. Fine, fine, fine. I'll just stop sharing and then maybe we can just discuss instead of me sharing. I think this is how it would be better. Yeah. So what I was saying is, yeah, what we can do is divide the entire day into 3 hours, right? Peak hours, mid peak hours, and non peak hours. So high peak hours would essentially be, let's say, in a town like Delhi, it would be majorly around 10 to 12 when it's like the office hours, right? A. What the second thing is when people return from office, which is around 4 to 6 or 7. So you can take an average 6 hours as peak hours, right? Similarly, middle peak hours would be something around the afternoon time, right? Which an afternoon time and a little late evening before, let's say 8 or 9. And that's how you take it to be 8 hours, and the rest of the hours you can take it out as non-peak hours, right? That's how then you divide, let's say, in peak hours. So what is an easier way of calculation is you do one calculation for the peak hours and take a certain percentage of it for middle peak and non-peak hours. Now I'll say what do I exactly refer to, right? When you say peak hours, let's take 8 hours. Huh? What is the average time that is required for any vehicle to fill its petrol? What would it be? Let's take 5 minutes on an
10
average,
minutes,
right?
I guess.
5 to 10 minutes. Okay, that would be the maximum, right? So let's take 10 minutes on an upper hand, right? If one vehicle takes 10 minutes, then in 6 hours, which is the peak hours, let's consider that in 6 hours it's 100%. It is working at 100% capacity. That it has no breaks, right? One vehicle will go and immediately the next vehicle will come. So how many vehicles demand can be fulfilled in that amount of time, which is 8 hours by 10 minutes, right? That's how you get the number of vehicles that can be that can like whose can be filled in the peak hours. Then you take in middle peak hours something around 60 or 70% of how many vehicles can be done in peak hours, and in non-peak hours you take a very lower percentage, something around 10 or 20%, and that's how you come. Okay, this is the number of vehicles that can like fill the petrol. But my question was, what is the revenue of a petrol pump in a day, right? So herein you get the number of vehicles, right? Then again, the number of vehicles you have to ask, is it just four-wheelers? Is it two-wheelers? Right? Because what is the average amount of petrol that is required for each vehicle? Again, differs, right? Then you can take an average of all of it from your experience. This is where your anecdotal experiences came, personal experiences come, and multiply it, and then you get, okay, this is the amount of petrol. Currently, this is the price of the petrol, and that's how you get the revenue, right? Any doubts over here?
Well, I had a different approach if I could
Yes,
discuss.
yes, go ahead.
I was thinking that first of all, if I was given a question, I would ask some clarification question based on what location or where does it lie. Especially, is the petrol pump located on a maybe on a road, on a very important road, state highway, national highway or something. Then later on, I would like to, as you mentioned, we'll take the route of maybe bifurcating the hours as peak, middle peak, and everything. But when it comes to the revenue part, I would like to even diversify by saying that in a petrol pump, even diesel is served, even CNG can be served if it's a Delhi or a Delhi NCR region. And even at times, electric vehicles can also get them charged, and a revenue can be earned from that. So I can have maybe more verticals or laterals there, and yeah, we can maybe get the revenue out of that. Even we can also get the revenue by services that are offered on petrol pumps, even refreshments, and also with the rents that are on per day basis given to the shops on the petrol pump.
Right, absolutely. So this is where you get the brownie points, right? When I talk about revenue, the first thing that crosses everyone's mind is we'll do a full revenue that's happening, right? But that's not the only thing, right? So this is where you get the brownie points that you ask. Exactly, this is what the bottom up approach means, that you first tell that there are 5 streams of revenue that I can think of, and I would, so again, you cannot go on to like calculate the revenue for each, right? You can just calculate, obviously for a petrol pump the major revenue would come from fuel, right, from petrol or diesel. So that's the major revenue. Then you can take a percentage of it, like he said, of rent. You can also take a percentage of it for Delhi when he said ki CNG is a very major thing, right? This is where your insights come into picture. Then the third thing, there is one major thing that happens in all petrol pumps is advertisement, right? Advertisement is also a very important source of revenue. So that is also something that you can take, and you can just take some percentage of each of it. Again, that percentage will not be very high, so you can just tell the interviewer, this is what I think. This would be majorly the percentage, right? Like you go to a petrol pump, all of us would have gone to a petrol pump, right? You can see this billboards pasted, number of stores, right? So that's how you take that percentage. So this is where you get the brownie point. Great, great. I'm sorry, your name is VSR written, so I'll call you VSR.
No worries, no worries. It's famous
Hello.
Raj, by the way.
Okay, great.
I had a
Hi.
Ishita,
doubt.
Yes,
okay, let
Rosalind.
Ishita go ahead, then Gaurav, you can go ahead, okay? I see your hand being
Hi.
raised. Yeah, hi.
Yeah, actually, I want to ask that while solving a guesstimate, there could be like if I'm solving, I could go very deep down, like considering a share or something. So when to stop and like when we should stop that now it is enough rather than going deep into. So like how should we clarify that? And this also create a doubt for me whether I'm going it right or wrong. Yeah,
Like, what do you refer to when you are saying that how much deep do you want to go? Can you like give an example? What exactly you're referring to?
actually, suppose we are taking an example where we are considering a population. So in that, we are then dividing based on income, then we dividing into age. In that also, we are considering more factors. So when should I stop considering these factor, or it is okay to like follow the same approach?
Okay. So good question. I initially mentioned, right, when I was just presenting that a guesstimate interview usually is for 15 to 20 minutes, right? Where 5 minutes would go with you interacting, giving your intro, the person interviewer giving you the questions, you repeating the questions, getting all these things done. Then you take 2 more minutes to clarify you have your scoping questions, right? Like you have multiple scoping questions that you can have, like is it on a weekday, is it on a weekend, is it like a metro station, like is it on a highways or in a remote kind of a place. So you will essentially have 15 minutes max to solve, right? First thing is try to take numbers which are easy. Like let's say abhi population would be something 1.45 billion. You don't have to take that. You just have to take which is easy to calculate. See, they do not know the exact numbers. They don't want to see what is the exact number. They just want to see what's your approach, and you don't take numbers which are very different. Like 1,000 का आंसर 1 लाख में नहीं आना चाहिए, but 1,000 का आंसर if it's 5,000, that's okay, that's perfectly fine for them, right? So again, when you are saying about urban rural, then you do about income bracket, so they will usually not ask questions where you have to do multiple splits. And make sure that when, like for example, this is the basic thing that crosses all of our minds, right? But user, non-user, peak, non-peak, these are certain things that you should like keep in your mind when you are solving. So these are the different brackets or segregations that you should take. Instead of taking that, it should be like young age. So for example, they're taking about what would be the number of mobile phones that would be used, or what would be the amount of internet that would be used. So instead of, we will do our basic ideology, will be segregate urban rural, then we'll do it by age or we'll do it by income. But we can also do it, right, by the percentage of mobile penetration. It's easier. So the questions would not be something where you have to go into much segregations, multiple segregations. It's just your approach and the extra points that you bring into the table. Got it?
Yeah, it's like what will be the easiest approach that could give the correct answer rather than brainstorming and all.
Yes. Rather than just going with a defined framework, इसके बाद ये split होगा, उसके बाद ये split होगा. That's something you don't have to do. You just have to think, yes, the, the interviewer knows, right? There is a certain amount of calculations that can be done within 15 minutes. You can't do anything and everything in that 15 minutes, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Gaurav, go ahead. You had some question.
Yes. So my point is whether we are in the urban or rural area, the point would be the population density of that area before anything, I think so.
Did not really get you. What did you mean by this?
My first question would be like, I wanted to know the population density of that area before moving to any other calculation. So that would be the correct approach or not?
No, why would you want to know the population density of an area?
Like so that I can know the footfall, so that I can assume the footfall of that petrol pump.
That is what you have to calculate, right? Footfall of the petrol pump. You do not have to know. So again, do not ask questions that they would not be aware of. Neither can you remember the population density of so many places, right? So I mean, the population density approach is usually not preferred in an interview, and I believe you should not go ahead with that. Rather,
Okay.
you should think of, like, for example, this petrol pump. I said you a supply side approach, something like that.
Okay.
That is how you solve, right? That is where exactly you bring a supply side and a demand side thing. I think we have very less time, but I would like to go ahead with this particular example because it's a very, very commonly asked question in an interview. Plus, it's a very important part. Let's take what would be the number of airports that would be taking off from, let's say, a Lucknow airport in this case, or let's say in a Bangalore airport. What in one particular day, what would be the number of flights that would be taking off in a day?
Yeah, just to make it more interesting, I would like to request someone to volunteer it as a mock interview or mock guesstimate round.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can do
So
that. Anyone who is confident
very
about.
yeah.
I can try.
Sure,
Yeah.
go ahead, Kushi.
Okay. Was it Ishita?
No, me. Hi.
It's Kushi, I think.
Yeah. Sorry, I just joined back again. Can we just start with the question? Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, yes. Okay, so the question is essentially what would be the number of flights that would be taking off from a Bangalore airport in one particular day?
Okay. So I think I would be looking at the number of runways as well, and number of terminals,
Just
and
to stop here. Again, I first mentioned, right, when we go on ahead, it's like a mock guesstimate we were doing. The first thing that you should have done is reiterated the problem. A. Second, there were no scoping questions that you had, right?
okay.
You should have your scoping questions. Can you go ahead again?
Okay. So just to clear the question again with you, does it mean that I need to figure out number of flights flying, taking off and flying out as well on the airport of Bangalore?
Yes.
And I've got some questions or starting questions in order to just have some clarification on this.
Yeah.
Are we just considering international or national flights? Both.
We are considering both domestic as well as international flights.
Okay. And Yeah, I guess. And can we consider it as an assumption that, actually not an assumption, but can we consider that the flight is, again, the airport is operating at 24 hours, and again, the continuous loop goes on? Or is it just for like some days, some hours, and then there's a cooling period, and then it starts again?
Since it's Bangalore airport, we can consider it to be 24 hours operating.
Okay, perfect. Uh, cool.
Let's go ahead with the approach.
Yeah.
I think you have all that you wanted.
Okay. Yeah, I do. Okay, so for the airport, I think I will consider two terminals, one being international and then one being domestic.
Start with the domestic one.
Okay. And in domestic, considering okay, one runway and one flight just landing every 10 minutes.
Taking off. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So should I not be considering like landing as well, or is it just the taking off?
It's just the taking off.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so every 10 minutes, one flight is taking off. But
You
at
can take some time, think, tell me what's your entire approach, and then you can go ahead with numbers like 10 minutes or whatever quants that you have. You can go ahead with that. First, tell me what's your approach.
okay, my approach was to actually again start with the peak hours and then some hours where there would be less traffic, and then on the basis of that, I can divide the hours. So let's say every takeoff takes like 10 minutes. So I will be using that. In peak hours, it could be going to 10 minutes, while in the major cooling off period, it could be going to like 30 minutes or 20 minutes.
Okay.
So to start with, again, 24 hours operation, and the first 12 hours, that is from midnight to early, let's say until 6 o'clock in the morning, I could say that every 30 minutes a flight takes off.
Okay.
So that is, so I'm just gonna write it down.
Yeah. We can just like skip the numbers for now.
Got it.
But
Okay.
yeah.
So from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., assuming 30 minutes every flight comes off, and then from 6 a.m. to 12 again p.m., considering around 20 minutes because it's still not morning yet, so
Okay.
I could say that. And then from the afternoon, the traffic grows on, so I could say from 12 p.m. to again 6 a.m. If,
Okay.
sorry, 6 p.m. Then the traffic goes to 10 minutes per flight for takeoff.
Okay.
And again, same goes on from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. completing the circle, and then keeping it to 20 minutes or 30
Okay.
minutes for takeoff.
Is there anything else that you would like to add? This is your entire approach.
I think I would also like to add some private aircrafts as well, if coming on the
We are just considering passenger aircraft for now.
right. So yeah, I think this is all I got.
Okay, Khushi. Is there anyone else who would like give their approach or tell me like what we could have changed? Okay, Harsh, go ahead.
No, shall I start from scratch, like this question?
Yeah,
Or
make it more interactive. Let's do it once again.
yes,
If
yes.
you are confident, yeah.
Can I ask some clarifying questions first?
Ask
Uh,
something that is not already asked.
okay.
Yeah.
Uh, like is it reasonable to assume that the number of planes as 30 that can be landed or take off in an hour? An hour.
No, that is what you have to exactly estimate. How can you tell me what's that number? You cannot, it's not reasonable to assume any numbers before you actually estimate it, right?
Okay. And is there any information regarding the occupancy rate of the plane? Like,
How does it matter?
okay.
How is the occupancy
Uh,
rate of a
I
plane
want
going to decide number of flights taking off?
okay. So I want to start my approach.
Okay.
Like uh, first of all, I will segregate the number of total terminals into like into the terminal 1, terminal 2, and terminal 3. That is
Okay.
like terminal 1 consists of suppose 3 runways, and terminal 2 similarly consists of 3 runways, and terminal 3 consisting of 6 runways.
Okay.
And so I am assuming like the uh, average time for the takeoff would be like 5 minutes. And and now I would like to calculate the uh, percentage of efficiency of the airport, like the airport, that
Okay.
like it can be calculated by dividing the whole time duration like into the number like 11 to 6 11 a.m. to 6 a.m. Sorry, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. and then
Same
6
peak, mid peak, non peak is what you're saying,
and
correct?
then the total flights would be calculated by the multiplying the number of hours by the efficiency for the particular time interval, and the number of planes that would land in 1 hour, and then further multiplied by the number of runways
Okay.
to get the total number of flights.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else, or is that all? Is that all you have?
Not all that I
Anyone else who would have something additional to whatever Khushi and Harsh have spoken before I give my feedback? Anyone, guys, be confident. There's nothing going to happen. It's just a normal session. None? I don't see anyone speaking up or raising their hands.
Ishita, Gaurav, I can expect something from you guys, right?
Yeah, you guys had so many doubts. You should take. You can just take a blind guess. I mean, you can just do a approach. Whatever crosses your mind. Like whatever have they done? Anything additional that you think they had missed or something that you could add on?
Like we can say apart from a commercial, or you can say a cargo plane can also be considered
I
some.
mentioned, right? It's only passenger aircraft.
Sorry, I missed it. Okay.
Maybe we can also consider chartered and like private jets.
Again, I just mentioned it's only passenger aircraft. So you're not taking uh, private aircraft or commercial or cargo planes. It's just passenger aircraft.
Number of runways. So in that case,
Yeah. Harsh did mention the number of runways. I think that's also covered.
Ma'am, can we include the security checks, like there was check uh, like like for the entry and exit of the passenger, like we can consider the time duration, that, and then like how
Where would that come into picture?
it will be like different approach I'm thinking from, like
What are you thinking of? You can think loud. Tell me what
I'm
are you thinking of?
thinking like kind of a metro scenario, like where we the passenger get entered and then exit, and then we can check the how many passengers can enter in 1 hour, or like exit in 1 hour, so that we can estimate from that point of view like how many flights will be there. It's like a different.
Yes, a good one, Harsh. I think so. This is a very generic approach that all of you would have seen if you would have like Googled guesstimates. The first thing that comes up is number of aircraft or number of flights that take off or land, right? And runway approach is the most famous thing. Correct. I like what Diksha said. It's layovers. That is what most of you have missed, right? So again, it's a Bangalore airport, right? You could have just done a simple thing, which is what I mean. For example, the flights that would essentially be taking off and not the layover flights, right? we can consider boarding gate time as the bottleneck instead of the runway and the peak non-peak hours. Okay, because that is a bigger bottleneck, right? The amount of time it takes to board would be around 45 minutes, right? So then you can consider that, okay, there would be X number of runways, and let's say 45 minutes it takes to. Well, you can obviously do the peak non-peak thing, but like around in peak time, it would be 45 every 45 minutes that a flight would be taking off, right? And that should be your bottleneck, right? Instead of the time duration that a flight requires to take off, there should be passengers inside it, right? Then only the flight can take off, correct? That should be the bottleneck that you can use. Then you can just again divide it across peak, non-peak, and mid-peak to understand that what could be the percentage. Again, this is for, let's say you have done it for domestic. And I'm speaking about Bangalore airport, guys. All of us know there are like how many terminals are there, and again there would be larger number of runways, right? It's a very very big airport, correct? Instead of just 3, you can just keep it 6 or 8 in that case. And you can take a percentage of the domestic flights to be a smaller percentage of it to be international flights, right? Since it's an international airport as well. And then after calculating the domestic flights, the additional thing that you should have taken up is the layovers. There would always be some flights which would come for layover, and that you can take a percentage of the flights that you have calculated. That is how you could have gone.
I have a question.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be considered in the takeoff, uh, the thing that we will be calculating? So the layover period, wouldn't it be considered as one plane taking off, and coming back as well?
No, right? Because when you're doing this boarding gate approach, it is essentially for the passengers which are coming new. But there again, there would be some flights where there would not be any new passengers who would essentially be there, right? There might be some passengers who would essentially get down, and the time duration might be way lesser, right? In case of a layover,
Yeah,
would not be the same way as other normal flights whose first destination is Bangalore. It would always be less, right? Let's say a flight which is moving from Dubai to Hyderabad and Bangalore is a layover. In that case, it would not be the same way.
got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
I had a different approach if I could maybe
Yes.
discuss.
Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure if this the one that is like the standard one that are being asked in interviews, but I'm going for it. So I thought like I believe this was a UP airport, airport based in UP, right?
Mention Bangalore.
Okay, I'm so sorry, Bangalore, right? Yeah. Okay, taking it as Bangalore, I thought like, why couldn't we assume the total population of Bangalore to be, let's say, 5 million people? And because it's Bangalore, it's a central location, it may cater to nearby locations, which could add up to a catchment rate of somewhat 7 million population. Given that, taking a very vague assumption that only 0.1% of the population is in the catchment zone of this particular airport that we're talking about, I guess that's the, I don't remember the name of that airport. It goes by M, I guess, the International Airport of Bangalore. So yeah, that could be the catchment rate there, and dividing the catchment rate with the average seats in a aircraft, in a passenger aircraft, which could range from 150 seats to 180 seats in an aircraft, can maybe we'll get a number with that. And given that there could be layovers, so right now what we're talking is the regional or the local population that is being catered by the airport at the same point of time. But as we talk about the layovers, we can even take the small percentages of layovers, like 10% or 5% of population that is being catered by the airport at the same point of time. So we can arrive at a number. I know it's a very weird kind of approach, but I don't know.
You had your question answered in the second statement that you passed, that it's a very vague assumption that you're taking. Is it something very common that you would know a catchment rate A? And I am pretty sure you'll never, like, you would not come up to a ballpark number in this case. You are not going ahead with an approach. You're just assuming that, okay, this would be the population that would be there, and like this would be the amount of like percentage of travelers from an airport's catchment area who would choose that airport for their journey, right?
Right.
That is exactly the answer that I want you to. You cannot assume a percentage for that and come up and say,
Okay.
okay, this would be it,
Okay, got it.
right?
Thank you.
Yeah. I think Mahavir, we have crossed the time.
Yes, yeah. So do guys, if you have any question, please feel free to ask. I will just ask 2 minutes extra of Rosalind, and then
Yeah,
we
yeah,
will come.
I can stay back for 5 minutes. That's not an issue. That's not an issue. But I would like give certain feedbacks, right? Not to any particular person, but in general, right? What certain things that you should have taken care of. First, when I am mentioning the question, make sure that you hear each and every word of it. I mentioned Bangalore Airport. When the scoping questions are being asked, one thing that you could have done is you could have asked whether it's a passenger flight, whether are we considering commercial flight, private jets, right? This is one scoping questions that should have come. And when I'm mentioning it, do not repeat the same thing again. It's a bad thing in an interview, right? You are not having attention to details, correct? So that is something that you should take care of. Second, like do not jump to conclusions. There would be 10 minutes here, that it would take 30 minutes there. Did I ask you a number? No. Tell me the approach. I would want to segregate it into peak, non-peak, this hours, or I am taking. So you can just say ki, since it's Bangalore airport, I would consider it to be a very big airport, and the number of runways would around be 6 or 8, and there would be 2 terminals, right? I'll do the calculation first for one terminal, and then take a percentage of it for like I'll do it for domestic, I'll take a percentage of it for international, and then I'll take a percentage of it for layover, right? Then for the domestic flights, this is the bottleneck that I consider, which would be the boarding time. Tell me the approach, then go ahead with the numbers. You do not have to jump with the numbers, and most of the times they do not want the numbers. They just check what is your approach, what you are thinking, what's your mind process, right? That is what is important in consulting after all. Yeah.
Okay, Rosalind, we have a very important question. What I feel, what is the difference between product role estimate and consulting estimates?
Product role guesstimate and a consulting estimate, I don't think there is a very major difference. But in consulting estimates, it's usually generic stuff that they ask. For a product role guesstimates, it could be something like, let's say, what's the revenue that we get from a newspaper, right? Or let's say, what's the revenue that we get from X company. So that is where you say ki, what are the different streams of revenue that you get, and there would be some aspect of a product management role. Like let's say for a website, correct? For a website, there is a very common KPI that is being used called click-through rate, right? So that is something that can be asked in a product interview. I mean, the type of guesstimates will be a little different, but again, consulting would be majorly anything, more generic stuff. And in product role, I think the only difference that I have seen from my experience is certain things where a little KPI would be used, something from a product perspective that you should have an idea of, right? How to get strong in guesstimate? What was your practice approach? So again, practice makes a man perfect. There is no shortcut to it, right? You just keep practicing, but make sure that do not practice a similar kind of thing. मतलब population से कर रहे हो तो सब कुछ population से नहीं करना है. Try doing very very different questions. Try asking yourself any random question. Let's say कि Gen AI का adaptability क्या होगा. Like it can be any random questions, and then try to solve it. And like, see, what we used to do in MBA is we always had a group of like 2 3 friends among which we used to solve. So when I say something, the other person will have some perspective, right? Like how we did a mock interview. Everyone had something else to add on. That's how you learn. So maybe you can do it with your friends if that's a possibility. If not, chat GPT, yaar, everything is there right now. There is a lot of things that you can learn. Life is easier, way easier. And yeah, there are many good resources. So we used to follow case books from all the IIMs, FMS, IIMs. So they used to have case books, and there would be like a list of guesstimates over there. So that's how we used to follow. If you guys want, I can share that with you, the ones that I have. I mean, if there is any way, Mahavir, then maybe I
Yeah,
can share
I
the
will
zip
definitely
file.
share all those resources, Rosalind. I will share on the email IDs. Yeah, all the case books, all the guest books, there are a lot of in the market, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, uh, what's important? Just find it. This last question that you can take. Uh,
How much importance does final? See, honestly, not a lot. Okay, most of the time you don't even reach to the final. They'll stop you because you cannot do in that short amount of time the entire calculation. But again, मतलब as I said, it cannot be अगर thousands में number आना चाहिए, millions में नहीं आना चाहिए. मतलब the difference should not be very huge. And मतलब you can know, they'll not ask you something that you are totally not aware of, right? अभी कितने flights आते हैं ये तो basic idea सबको होगा, right? You just have to make sure that when you're coming up with a number, just do a little common sense sanity check that this can be a possibility. If not, go back and see where you could have added something or taken some percentage, some penetration percentage that you have missed.
Okay, Roger. So it's probably answers the question. Okay, so given you have like summarized everything, your journey and how to practice and everything. Thank you very much for your time, and it was really fun and interesting session. So let's give a applause to Rosalind for giving us her time, like a weekday time for this session.
Sorry
So
that I had to shift it from 7 to 9 p.m. due to a meeting, but yeah, it
no
was really
problem. But
fun. It was really fun.
yeah, it was fun, and really the audience loved it. To be honest, it was the maximum engagement we received in this event. Okay, from last.
Amazing.
Thank you, Rosin, for joining. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. All of you have a great day and keep practicing. You can reach out to me in LinkedIn if any of you want.
Yes, I will be sharing our LinkedIn, and yeah, I will be sharing our LinkedIn with all.
Okay,
Again,
thank you
thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank you. Good
night.
night.
Good
Thank
night.
Thank you. Good night. Hello. Hello, Mahavir.
Yes, Harsh.
Yeah, I have a doubt like regarding the case studies which you have circulated in the group previously. Recently, like previously, I was in the group and you shared in the case studies of various colleges of consulting. Like there is a PDF of case studies in the group, but somehow I lost my all the stuffs in the group, and I recently can't able
Yeah,
to even access the
yeah.
things.
You can just DM me, and I will give you the access, Harsh. Okay.
Yeah, you can share the PDF of once again to me if I
Yeah,
will DM
sure,
in the.
sure. I will share.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. So, guys, if you have any doubt, you can feel free to ask. I'll cover the rest of the things. Yeah, Vyom, tell me.
Hi, Avia, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. What about you?
I'm doing great, just preparing for the interviews. Yeah, I had this doubt that these case interviews and case competitions are two entirely different things. And like even for practices, mostly what is recommended and is highly perceived is achieving good score or maybe achieving good positions in case competitions. Whereas case interviews are entirely a different thing. They might just use similar type of maybe thinking, right? So right now we are talking about case interviews in this whole series.
No, we are not just talking about this. One is just about transferring of knowledge. We are having KT sessions. These people who are already placed, who are already doing the job. So the first week is all about knowledge transfer. In the second week, we will be having the case competition. We will be having people who will be knowledge transferring their how they made winning decks and what is the basic approach of making decks. And then you will be working on a problem for let's say 5 or 4 days, and then we will be having the presentation in the last 2 days. Okay, so the week one is all about knowledge transfer. Week two is about competition and how you make the presentation. And then week 3 is about you will be working with your peers on mock interviews related to guesstimates. And week 4 will be about case how to solve case. You will be doing basically mock interviews which will involve cases. And in the last, you will be having mock interviews with me and your CV review. Okay, this is the whole plan. Yeah. Did you miss our intro call?
Yes, I did, but yeah, I did go through the schedule right. Yeah, you're very right on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just having this doubt, like how could we, like, if we are getting good positions in CaseCom, how could we convert that into PPIs or PPOs from maybe the companies, internship opportunities from the companies,
So
similar way.
yeah, so there is only one single you need to participate in as much as case competition. Okay, so go to OnStop and just register yourself to big companies which have PPIs involved in the case competition, and you just need to crack it by making a wonderful presentation. So we will be learning in the second week how to make a wonderful presentation, and then you will go through it, right? Yeah.
All right, done, done.
And
In
one more thing, yeah, and one more thing I want to ask you. Like previously, you have created some participant like aligned with the pro in their case competition. You have
no,
mentioned in the previous.
yeah, it was like 1 year ago. Okay, so we made teams and we made a team finder application as well, where AI will
Yeah,
make
yeah.
you teams and everything. But it was not a very market. It doesn't get the product market fit, so we removed it from our website, right? That's
Mhm.
why. So that's why we are going through a different channels and different ways to make it more interactive and more successful.
So right now you are trying a different approaches to get through the same thing, so
Yeah.
that we can deal with the case competition and we can crack it and we can get our PPOs and PPIs over different companies.
Yes, Harsh.
And the same thing is like previously I have gone through the case thing and we are participating in the group, but somehow I lost all the connections between the participants.
Yes, just reach out to me, man. We cannot discuss this thing in the meeting, right? You can just DM me. I'm available on the DM, right?
And same point of time, I need some participants to like track something, crack a case competition and so
Okay, Harsh. We will deal in it in the second week. Okay.
yeah. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Harsh, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining the
I had
session.
a small doubt if you could take this one up.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry to
It's
extend
not.
your timeline, but yeah, I just wanted to request if the sessions could be kept in the similar timeline we had today, the same window, because I'm not sure, maybe it's coming
Okay.
from just my side, but I felt that it was way too more convenient for me to join in the sessions as a 9 to 10. I guess it was a 9 to 10 session.
Okay, so tomorrow's session is with Nikhil. I will just connect with him if he agrees, and then we can have it in 9
Yes,
to 10.
please, you can just maybe post a poll and ask the guys if what's the most convenient thing for them and for you as well. At the same
Yeah, I can
time.
just drop the poll, right? Just drop a poll for
I'll do
7 to 8 or 9 to 10. Okay.
I'll do that.
Okay.
All
And the
right.
thing, yeah,
Mahavir.
Yeah. Yes, Gaurav.
So what would be the timing for tomorrow's session?
Yeah, I will just inform once I confirm with the Nikhil. If there is no confirmation, keep it at 7. Okay. Just let's think it as at 7 only. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have more doubts? If not, please drop.
Can we leave?
Krish, yeah, Dinesh, you guys can leave.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
Krishi,
thank you.
yeah, Krishi, you have something? It's you, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
we wanted to have a conversation, right?
yeah.
Or
You,
can we do it later?
all right, we can have it now.
Okay, perfect. So
If you
I think
want
I told,
one-to-one section or you want to switch to another meeting?
Yeah, we can do that. Perfect. Makes sense.
Oh. Yeah, Nitish, are you there?
Yes, I.
Okay, what's going on? I will just drop these guys. Okay. Hemang, Gaurav, please, you guys, if you don't have, if you don't have doubt, please drop off the call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. Hi, Nitish, how are you?
Fine. What's for you?
Oh, wait, let me stop the recording, ma'am.
Yeah.